Hi there, I'm Deborah Bettolati, compliance broker at Maximum Win Executive Realtors. And like always, we want to have you save more, learn more, so that you can earn more. And one of the ways that we have done that is we are going to show you right now a buyer consultation presentation that I have set up, and I've set up a template in Canva that you are able to just go and personalize to yourselves. Okay, so I'm going to show you a ready to present to a buyer. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that now. So to start with, I'm going to obviously have a good presentation. In this particular case, I did go to my favorite lender and ask them, hey, do you have a folder I can get from you? They went ahead and got me a folder, and they will go ahead and put their information in there as well as any additional information that I want to show. So in this particular case, I have our affiliate, associate strategic partners such as Schaefertz and Dean, Old Republic Home Protection. We've got the Champia inspections, and then a few flyers on some different programs with our lenders that we have strategic partnership with, Modern Home Mortgage. So as you can see, that's all in there. So all the different programs and whatnot. Of course, in there, we will also have a couple other things, and we will be discussing each one of these. This will be tomorrow in a very nice binded system. I will put a nice cover over it and have it bound, but I wanted to demonstrate it like this just for the ease of demonstrating it to you. So again, this is just a standard Canva template that I've created. You can go ahead and put whatever information. I'm using my husband because it's easy for me to use him as an example. But with that, I would go ahead and put his logos and his information there. And then, of course, never forget to put your contact information, right? So it's going to be your about me. Then the team, who is on your team. So obviously you want to go ahead and put your team, your information there. You'll put all the information that you want, as well as just so you know, if you're a solo agent, you still have a team. You can put your office managers, your compliance brokers, etc. I put different agents here and a transaction coordinator as well. Additionally, I'm going to go ahead and put the highly likely to recommend client testimonials from Zillow. And yes, he's got plenty of Zillow and Google reviews. The Google reviews will actually help him more online, but we know that people are looking on Zillow, right? So we're going to go ahead and include some of those. You can do a combination. Then I have this service checklist. Where this becomes very helpful is that I'm going to be saying, hey, I have a couple questions for you. Can you tell me the lowest, would you like me to tell you the lowest price the seller will take? Not that we will always have that information as a buyer's agent, but if we are given that by the listing agent, or if they're telling us certain motivational factors, we can go ahead and see how important that's going to be. So it's got a list of 20 different questions. Prepare the CMA, offer guidance. Why is that an important question? Well, if they were to write no, then that means they don't want a representation situation, right? They would just want a customer situation. So I'm going to let them know that if you want me to say yes, if you're saying yes to all these, which it's kind of set up so that they will, then I do need to let you know that by Georgia law, by the NAR settlement situation, all that, you will need to have a client relationship with me. Of course, we'll talk a little bit further about that, and I'll explain that to them. I'm going to explain right now. Okay, so Georgia law mandates that representation must be formalized in writing. I can also go into the Code of Ethics because the Code of Ethics Article 1 says that as well. So I would spend a little bit of time explaining all this to the buyer and explain just a very brief, I am not going to cross the line, but very briefly that what's needed is down payment, closing costs of 4 to 7, negotiations, doc preps, access to vendors, and that they will have all that when they enter into a agency situation with me, relationship with me. Then I'll explain some of the things that I'm going to do for them as their buyer's agent. Purchase price, earnest money deposit, all that. I'm going to go through this list. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through every single one, but I'm going to explain that these are some of the negotiated terms that we're going to have somewhere to negotiate in. Okay, so that we're going to be discussing all that. Additionally, I'll talk to them about the buyer roadmap. Do not assume that just because they're either professionals or they have purchased a home in the past, do not assume that they know everything, and don't assume that they don't. But just kind of go through it, explain, hey, this is how it's going to work. We're going to talk. We're going to find that real estate agent for you, which is me, the pre-approvals process, how that's going to work, how we're going to set up your search or escrow. I'm going to kind of briefly go through each one of these roadmap areas, and I'm going to explain, and then we're going to finally get to our finish line, which is the closing. And I like to draw lines as I'm doing it. I might take a highlighter and highlight through them and just explain briefly each part of these. Of course, that requires you to understand each part of this. Okay, so let's make sure you're understanding these parts. Then I'm going to explain. I'm not going to tell you what the best type of loan is for you, but I've got the connections with great lenders that can. But I'm going to explain to them that there might be some situations, like in this one, that they might qualify for some discount programs in the loan programs. There might be grants out there. You know, when it says, what interest rate can you offer? Well, I don't know, right? But we're going to find out. These are questions you want to ask your lenders. And then I'm going to explain to them that the lenders most likely will ask them for this type of information, so to have it ready when they're ready to apply. Then I'm going to say, but here's where my job really gets started. And I, as your real estate agent, my number one goal is going to be to help you achieve your own dream, your own goal, right? I'm going to explain to them that Article 1 of the Code of Ethics, if you're a realtor, that tells me I have to put their priorities at the front. So I'm going to explain to them what steps this is going to mean, speaking to a lender, discussing their priorities, what is important to them, and then, of course, scheduling showings. So we'll go through that. And then this is my favorite part. I am a CNE instructor, which is Certified Negotiation Expert, as well as CBEA, which is for the Unbeatable Value Proposition. So I will explain to them, this is a CNE specialist. This tells you that I have the right, I have the strategic plan, and I have a strategic method to finding you that home. I don't just go into the MLS and find it. By the way, if you're interested in knowing more about these classes, I'll put a link down below, because this is a copywritten form, so it can only be used if you are truly a CNE and if you're taking the course. But what this talks about is how we accumulate and gather the information. It goes through all the different steps on how we do this. We talk about how we create value, because you see, value equals benefits over price. And we're going to talk about that later. I mean, benefits over features. And then we're going to talk about claiming the value, distributing the value, and then how do we get to the closing. Again, if you want to know more about that, let's talk CNE. This is just kind of some information for them to start thinking what's important to them. And we're going to go further into this in just a moment. I'll explain it to you in a moment. If you're not a CNE, if you're not a negotiation expert, you can easily use this form, and it talks about your basic needs and wants, as well as deal breakers. And then, of course, your must-haves and your offers and negotiations, how that's going to work. I tell them the process, explain to them how I am a negotiating expert and how we can get to that part of it. I'm going to explain that we're going to get to the second part of the negotiation part, which is the inspection period. And at that point, I'm going to stop for a moment, and I'm going to actually demonstrate to them an actual inspection, a sample inspection. I don't print this all the time and give it to each person. I just show it to them at that point, but I'll have it bound tomorrow so that they can see what it looks like. This is going to help them navigate their inspection period time. I will explain to them due diligence versus inspection right. And I will explain to them the reason why the due diligence is important, why an inspection period is important. Then we're going to go ahead and get to the closing table. I help my buyers during the discovery session that we originally have, our first buyer consult. I help them explain and foresee the situation of their future, which is going to be getting the keys to their new home. And at that point, I just let them know it's not just a job. I love what I do. So therefore, it's never a job, right? And you're going to put your name and information there. Additionally, right here, I'm going to show them my actual UVP, which is my unbeatable value proposition. And at that point, again, this is a CNE class. where we teach you how to really write it, but it basically becomes your resume, and it works really, really well. And then I do explain to them that now that they've seen the value in having a real estate agent, a realtor, a negotiating expert, let's go ahead and talk about what needs to be done to move them into that new home. And I do go through an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, explain that to them, and explain the fact that we will look through also a purchase and sale agreement so that they can see what it looks like. I am not afraid of that compensation because I have now demonstrated their value, or them my value. And we're going to go right through that. I will, in another video, explain how I actually go through the presentation, where I really have never had an issue with anybody doubting the value. Now, I told you I was going to show you